What is up, everybody? This is Josh back with another YouTube video, and this time it's all about the new Snake Eye cards. And I want to give you guys an introduction to the deck because it's now out in Master Duel and the TCG, and it's going to be basically running both formats as the best deck in the format, I'm pretty convinced. So I think it is about time that I give you guys an introduction to this archetype. Of course, there are some differences in the card pool, but for the most part, this is going to be helpful regardless of whether you're a Master Duel or a TCG player or both. Let's hop right in and I'll show you what these cards do. In order to understand the deck, we need to go through, I think, the cards one by one first before we hop into some convoluted combos and so on and so forth. So to start off with, we got Snake Eye Ash. If this card's normal or special summoned, add a level 1 fire from deck to your hand, and then you can send itself and another face-up card you control to the graveyard to special summon a Snake Eye from your hand or deck. Pretty simple, but pretty efficient card. Multiple of the Snake Eye cards are gonna have that theme to them where you can summon or interact with cards in your spell and trap zone because they have synergy with those, and Snake Eye Ash is one of those cards because the deck is all about placing some cards into your spell and trap zone, and then you can send those for free with Ash, right? Snake Eye Oak is very similar to Ash in that it also has an on summon effect, and it also has that effect to send 2 face-up cards to summon a Snake Eye from hand or deck. In the case of Snake Eye Oak, on summon it revives a level 1 fire from graveyard banished. You can also add it to your hand. This card is usually not being played as a 3-of, it's usually more like a 1-of. Unlike Snake Eye Ash, it is not a 1-card starter, but still very, very important regardless. And then the last of the Age of Overlord bunch, level 1 Snake Eyes, we've got Snake Eye Birch. This one isn't that powerful. This one is just if you control a fire, you can special summon it. It also has the effect to send 2 cards you control, including itself, to summon a Snake Eye. However, that one only works on your opponent's turn, so this card is usually only being played as like an extender that's just a free special summon from your hand that you can search. I've seen a lot of builds even forego this, and usually it's only being played in the pure Snake Eye decks, right? But it's worth mentioning, I think. And here we got the thing that is probably the most important to Snake Eye's success, and that is Snake Eye's Flamber's Dragon. I mean, all of these cards are pretty damn good, but I think Snake Eye's Flamber's Dragon takes the cake. Once per turn, target a face-up monster on the field or in the graveyard and put it to the spell and trap zone of its owner. During your opponent's turn, you get to summon a monster that is currently in the spell and trap zone as a continuous spell and special summon it to your side of the field. And when it's sent to the graveyard from hand or field, you get to revive 2 level 1 fire monsters. All right, so many things about this card, right? It's removal. You can push your opponent's monsters to the spell and trap zone and summon them out later if you want to. But obviously the main purpose for this card, which you're also going to do when you go first pretty much every time, is you're going to make an extra deck monster like Formula Synchron or IP Masquerena, depending on what version of the deck you're playing. You're going to link it off, and then you're going to put it into your spell and trap zone with Flamber's Dragon. And then on your opponent's turn, you're going to use the Flamber's Dragon to summon out that IP Masquerena or the Formula Synchron, use their effects to go into your extra deck on the opponent's turn, linking or synchroing with the Snake Eyes Flamber's Dragon to get the revival effect not only on your first turn, but also on your opponent's turn. So you get interruption from this card, you get incredible card advantage from this card because you get to revive level 1 monsters on your turn and your opponent's turn. The card is absolutely phenomenal. We have Divine Temple of the Snake Eye. The field spell is pretty good. It lets you place a Snake Eye from hand, deck, or grave into your spell and trap zone. When you activate it, it boosts your level 1 monsters by 1100. Not that relevant, but sometimes it can be. And then when your opponent normals or special summons, you get to summon out one of the monsters in your spell and trap zone. This card is typically only being played in pure Snake Eyes as a 1-of because you can easily search it. In hybrid versions of the deck, I haven't seen people really use the card, but in pure Snake Eyes, I've been having success with it in Master Duel already. All right, here we go into the cards that you guys all know, right? Wanted, Diabellstar, and Original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye. Of course, these cards are also going to be in this deck all over the place. This card previously only being used in, like, you know, Rescue Ace and Fire King just together with these cards. Now, the fact that it's called Snake Eye is actually going to matter a whole lot because you can obviously now search it with Poplar, which I'm going to show you in a second. Wanted, tutoring out Diabellstar, and Diabellstar tutoring out your Snake Eye spell card, which is a starter for this deck, obviously is really, really good in this deck. I don't really need to tell you guys about these cards. Every version of this deck plays 3 Wanted, and the minimum obviously is 1 Diabellstar, 1 Sinful Spoil Snake Eye, but at the same time, I've seen most decks run multiples of these. I think that's also probably the way to go. Just for completion's sake, TCG side note here, Bonfire obviously is a phenomenal card in Snake Eyes as well because it adds a level 4 lower Pyro, which all of the small Snake Eyes are, right? And here is the star of the show. From Phantom Nightmare, this card was missing. This is the reason why this deck hasn't been popping off yet as a pure variant or as like a largely Snake Eyes based deck, right? You've seen the cards here and there, But now with Poplar, we're entering Snake Eye format, right? If this card is added to your hand, except by drawing it, you can special summon this card. If this card is normal or special, you add a Snake Eye spell trap from your deck to your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard, target a fire in your grave, place it face up in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell, each effect once per turn. You're gonna add this card from your deck to your hand by using Bonfire or Snake Eye Ash. You're gonna special summon it out. You're gonna search a Snake Eye spell for free, so 1 Ash at that point already goes +2. Afterwards, once this thing hits the graveyard, it provides another free spell and trap card, or like a monster in your spell and trap zone, as fodder for your other effects. This card is absolutely phenomenal for this deck, and you're gonna see in a second when I show you some combos why this card makes this deck as good as it is now. We have to talk about Promethean Princess, the other card from Phantom Nightmare. Actually been out in Master Duel for a while, but also super important. 2+ effect monsters. It's a Link 3 fire. It locks you into fires while it's on the board. You can only use each effect once per turn, and it just, during your main phase, special summons a fire monster from the graveyard. That's it. No, doesn't negate its effects, which is super relevant in this deck. That would make it a pretty good card, but on top of that, if it ever hits the graveyard and your opponent special summons a monster, you can just target a fire you control and a monster they control, destroy both, and bring it back. So this card is not only a phenomenal extender on your first turn, it also provides disruption on your opponent's turn as soon as this hits the graveyard. And you'll notice that it lacks a very important clause, which is banish it when it leaves the field after it comes back from the graveyard, which is a lot of cards that bring themselves back from the grave have this. You can do this every turn. Like, this will go back to the graveyard, then later on you can do it again and again and again. It'll never banish itself. Card is completely crazy and is also one of the main reasons why this deck is as strong as it is. Another honorable mention, which is a card from a while ago that you may not be familiar with, Ambla Whale, is a Link 4 fire monster, which is obviously relevant because if you want to link off Promethean Princess, you need to link into a fire monster, and this is the go-to Link 4 that's going to come up in almost every single combo. Gains 200 attack for each Link monster in the graveyards. If this card is destroyed, it targets a Link 3 or lower in either graveyard and special summons it. If a Link 3 or lower monster on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish it from the grave and destroy a card on the field. You want to Promethean Princess Link climb into this. The most important part about it is that it puts the Promethean Princess into the graveyard, obviously, but then on top of that, you know, you can pop it with Promethean Princess, you can bring back a fire Link monster from your graveyard, and then when the Promethean Princess is destroyed, you can banish this to destroy another card. So these two together give you a lot of like random interaction on your opponent's turn that's actually quite useful. There's some other cards that are like gonna come up here and there because this is a fire deck, so an honorable mention goes to Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, which is part of some combos. You have the Sinful Spoils Subversion Snake Eye spell, which came out a while ago, which I thought was worth mentioning because it's a Snake Eye spell that is a flexible removal. Usually people side deck this card if they even play it, but I still thought I would bring it up. And I also wanted to give an honorable mention to Kurikara because Kurikara is searchable in this deck by Snake Eye Ash and the graveyard effect of Sinful Spoils Snake Eye. So I've seen some people play one copy of Kurikara, just so you know what to expect in terms of options, right? All right, I think in order to understand the real power of this deck, I just need to show you a couple of its one-card combos. We're going to start with the pure Snake Eye deck, and then I'm also going to include a relatively standard combo for the Fire King version of the deck. I'm going to show you just a one-card Snake Eye Ash combo. There is ways you can make these combos even stronger if you have multiple cards. Just to showcase the power level of the deck, though, I think it's enough to show you what one Snake Eye Ash does in different versions of the deck. If you're playing pure Snake Eye with a Jet Synchron to access some synchros, you're going to start with Snake Eye Ash. You're going to add Populous. Populous is going to trigger in hand, summon itself, and then add a original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye to the deck. From here, you can activate Snake Eye Ash effect, send itself and the Populous to summon Snake Eye Oak. Oak is going to trigger, Populous is going to trigger. It doesn't matter which way around. You can Oak summon Populous, or Poplar rather, place Ash, or the other way around. It's really not relevant here. You're then going to use Oak, send itself, and whichever one you put into the spell and trap zone to summon the Flamberge Dragon from the deck. You could use the Flamberge to put something into the spell and trap zone here. However, you're not going to do this. You don't want to do this here because you have nothing off value for your spell and trap zone yet. You want to get that Formula or Masquerena into the graveyard before you do that. So here, what you're going to do is you're going to link 2 into a Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. That's going to trigger your Flamberge Dragon to bring back 2 level 1s from the graveyard. Which ones you add here does not matter, or which ones you summon rather. You're going to use Sunlight Wolf to add back whichever one you didn't summon back to your hand. You're going to be able to use original Sinful Spoiled Snake Eye to send one of these 2 to summon a Jet Synchron from your deck. The Jet Synchron and the Snake Eye Ash are going to make a Formula Synchron. Formula Synchron is going to draw you a card, which at this point, because this is all off of one Snake Eye Ash, would still put you to 6 cards in hand. You're going to link Sunlight Wolf and Formula Synchron into Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess is going to revive the Flamberge Dragon. And here's why it's so important that the Flamberge Dragon is not negated after being revived from the Princess, right? Because now it's going to put the Formula Synchron into the Spell and Trap Zone. Now, we want to turn this into an Amblo Whale, so we're going to send the Ploplar from our hand into the grave to bring back the Jet Synchron, and then Jet Synchron plus Promethean Princess is going to make an Amblo Whale, right? And you're looking at this and you're like, well, this is not tier 0 material end board. This is just an Amblo Whale, Flamberge Dragon, and a Promethean Princess in the graveyard, right? How is this so broken, right? Keep in mind, we have done this with 1 card, so we would theoretically here still have 5 cards in hand. If these are extenders, we can make more out of this, obviously, but if these are not extenders, then they're probably something like hand traps or other non-engine. But even, don't underestimate this board. Look, on your opponent's turn, Flamberge Dragon is going to bring back Formula Synchron. Formula Synchron is going to allow a Synchro Summon of level 10, which obviously you're going to make a Baron. The Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon is going to trigger now. You can bring back Oak and Ash if you want to. You can then trigger both of these as well. Like, you can search a level 1 fire, you can add back the Jet Synchron to your hand or summon it depending on what you want. Usually you want to add it back to your hand because you need some room here. As soon as your opponent then special summons a monster, you get to use the Promethean Princess to pop the Amblo Whale, which is gonna trigger the Amblo Whale to summon out the Sunlight Wolf, right? If your opponent plays into this extra monster zone, you get the add back from Sunlight Wolf as well. Basically, off of 1 card, the amount of cards you're getting is absurd because you get another level 1 search from this. So you're gonna have like 7 cards in hand, an Omni Negate, a pop. Once one of your Link monsters is destroyed, the Amblo Whale is another pop. This thing in the graveyard means follow-up as well. Like, the amount of value you're generating, and this is just a 1-card combo. Like, if you have a Diabellstar on top in these sort of lines, you can easily have a Savage Dragon as well with your Jet Synchron. It's phenomenal what the pure Snake Eye deck can do off of just so few resources. And the cool thing about this end board is that the interaction is very layered, right? Like, even something like a Dark Ruler or an Evenly Matched or something like that is not gonna do that much against the deck because your disruption comes from a lot of different places, right? Say you get Dark Rulered, you still have the Promethean Princess in the graveyard to pop the Amblo Whale or to pop your Flamberge. Still get your incredible amounts of follow-up, and it's not that trivial to like OTK over a board like this. I mean, if you get Dark Lord, you're not gonna die anyways. You're gonna have infinite follow-up. I think you can see the potential here. I could include a couple more combos, what you can do if you draw 2, 3, 4 cards, right? But just the fact that 1 singular starter card in the deck does that, I think is phenomenal. All right, so let's say you are not gonna be playing the pure version, but you want to see what that Fire King is all about, right? Now, the most common way people are playing the Fire King version is they're playing 3 Kirin, 1 Garunix, 1 Ponix, 1 Arvada. It's usually 1 or 2 Island, 1 or 2 Sanctuary, and then usually 1 of the 2 quick play spells as a searchable target in case you already have your Fire King Island and you resolve another Ponix. So relatively small package even, you know, like 6 monsters and a couple spells. And here's how it changes the way you would play this deck. If you start with Snake Eye Ash, the beginning is always going to be relatively similar, right? But here is where the line can deviate a little bit if you're playing the Fire King cards. The ordering here can be changed up a little bit. There's multiple ways you can get to the same end board. I tried a couple different ones and I checked online, and this seems to be the one that seems to be preferred in terms of the ordering, but you can get to the same end board in a slightly different order. But what you can do is you can link the Poplar into a Link Karibo. The Poplar then places itself into the Spell and Trap Zone, and here, instead of going for Sinful Spoils into the Jet, obviously you can also use it to access your Fire King package, right? And then the Ponix is going to grab you a Sanctuary, and Sanctuary is going to grab you a Fire King Island from the deck. Now you can use Island to pop that Ponix and grab yourselves your Garunix from the deck. Garunix then triggers and pops a Kirin from the deck, which revives the Ponix for another body, right? At this point, the Fire King cards are just a couple of bodies that you're spamming for your first turn combo, but I'm going to get to how they give you even more interaction on the opponent's turn. Here, you're going to use Ash to send that Linkuriboh because we want that extra monster zone to be open in a second, and you're going to summon Snake Eye Oak. Snake Eye Oak is going to revive a level 1 from the graveyard. You go with Snake Eye Oak effect, then to just go into the Flamberge from your deck, right? These two can then make a Sunlight Wolf. Flamberge triggers to bring back 2 level 1s from the graveyard. You're going to summon into the Sunlight Wolf zone. And the cool thing here is that you're going to use that Sunlight Wolf to put the Kirin back into your hand, which is obviously great for the opponent's turn. Now we're just going to go through the standard motions. You're going to see this a lot, right? You're going to make an IP Masquerena. Then you're going to link off that IP Masquerena and the Sunlight Wolf into a Promethean Princess. The Promethean Princess brings back Flamberge Dragon. Flamberge Dragon places the IP Masquerena, and these two then make your Amblo Whale. Right? All right, so if this is your end board, what you do have on the opponent's turn as opposed to the other version, obviously first big difference is you have an IP Masquerena instead of a Formula Synchron, which is not that big of a deal. It means you don't get an Omni Negate, which is one thing that people prefer about the Jet Synchron version of the deck, but the Fire King cards also have their own set of unique advantages. Flamberge brings back the Masquerena. Quick note, the same is also true for the Formula Synchron play. You want to do this and then use this effect, whether it's Formula or IP, before you use the Promethean Princess in the graveyard, right? Because as soon as you use Promethean Princess in the graveyard to, let's say, pop your own Amblo Whale and pop one of their special summons, now you would be locked into fire and you could only link or synchro into fire monsters. Obviously, we don't want that, so we want to use the IP Masquerena first in this case. There's ways you can make a big Appaloosa here by also linking with the Amblo Whale. You can use Kirin on the Flamberge first to get a lot of bodies to even make a 4-material Appaloosa. For the sake of this example, let's just say we go into an SP Little Knight, first things first, you know, and then trigger the Flamberge Dragon. The cool thing is here you can bring back Ponix as well, instead of just bringing back Snake Eye monsters. So the Ponix can search you a follow-up Fire King spell card, right? You can search like Skyburn to break your opponent's board, Circle, or just more island access. And obviously you're going to want to bring back like a Snake Eye Ash. You don't want to bring back Oak here, I don't think, because Oak just floods the board with a little bit too many monsters. You're going to see we're going to need some space. If you ever are at this point here, right, you would probably use the SP first to banish. If your opponent still has ways to play into your board, you're going to use Promethean Princess, pop the Amblo Whale, right? Amblo Whale also brings back Sunlight Wolf, and then at any point you can go Kirin, pop your Promethean Princess, summon the Kirin out. This triggers the Garunix, and it also triggers the Amblo Whale, which is a cool part about the Fire King version, is that you can trigger the Amblo Whale on your own, whereas in the other version, you don't have stuff that destroys your own cards, so you can't rely on, like, you have to wait for your opponent to destroy your Link monsters. So once you do this, you know, you get to pop with Amblo Whale, you get to use Garunix. Garunix can then destroy one from the deck, which you also have plenty of ways to do it here. Then you have Fire King Island to overlay here. So just like, you see how this is an incredible amount of interruption, right? Like, you get banish from Little Knight, banish from Little Knight again, pop from Princess, pop from Amblo Whale, destruction with this, potential destruction by Garunix destroying Kirin, infinite follow-up from Ash and Ponix. This was one card. All this stuff that we're talking right now was one card in both examples. No matter which version you prefer, I think it's been made pretty clear that the amount of interruption and the amount of follow-up and grind game you get off of just one card is quite insane, right? This deck is new for me as well, right? Like, I've spent some time looking into these combos, but there's probably ways you can even improve these lines. I've seen people already post lines that play around Nibiru and play under Droll and Lockbird. Actually, let me include the Droll and Lockbird version just to show you guys and tackle this issue of everyone is saying Droll and Lockbird is going to be a main deck staple in this upcoming format. This deck searches a lot, but let me show you what you can do if you get hit by a Droll and Lockbird in a very simple scenario like normal summon Ash, right? Poplar effect, here you get Drolled, right? So Poplar gets summoned, no search, big Sag, right? Ash effect, summon Oak, both effects, this, Oak effect, summon Flamberge, link to IP Masquerena, Flamberge Dragon effect, bring back 2, Promethean Princess effect, summon back Flamberge, Flamberge effect, place IP Masquerena, and make Amblo Whale. It's still really good. This is basically the full Fire King combo. It's just missing the Kirin in hand. All you're missing is that one search from Poplar, right? That gets you into the original Sinful Spoils into the Ponix, right? But everything else you still get. You still get the Flamberge, summon out IP, make SP, banish one, bring back two for infinite follow-up, Promethean Princess to pop with the Ambler Whale. Like, you still have a lot. It doesn't mean that Droll is bad against the deck. It's just not as good as people think, I feel like. I personally think this deck is looking very, very powerful, very, very strong. At the same time, I'm looking forward to it because if both decks are equally powerful, I actually think like the mirror match is quite good because as good as this deck is going first, it also has a lot of extension going second, and you can like actually play some pretty insane back and forth games. Another thing I want to quickly note, the power of Bonfire, and this is obviously something that we don't have in Master Duel and only in the TCG. You might look at Bonfire and think like, hey, it's just another consistency card to find like your Snake Eyes Ash and stuff like that, you know, just like more starters is always good, and that is already true. Like, it does do that, but at the same time, the reason why I think Bonfire is so crazy is because obviously Populace triggers when it's added to your hand by any means that isn't drawing, right? And Bonfire is one of those ways. So if your Snake Eyes Ash gets negated by any means, right, and you have a Bonfire in hand, that just lets you play through an Imperm on the Ash, a Veiler on the Ash, an Ash on the Ash. Bonfire in this case is not just more copies of your cards, it's like actually insane because it triggers Poplar. Like, it's better to draw Bonfire than Poplar because it's just Bonfire, add Poplar, special itself, you get to pop off, right? You really can't overstate how good this card is for the strategy, and it is lacking in Master Duel, obviously. Still, I think the deck is incredibly powerful both in Master Duel and the TCG. Obviously, in Master Duel, the question kind of is already answered, you know, which version should you play? It's gonna be pure because the other stuff isn't out in Master Duel yet. I can show you a very quick deck list that I've been messing around with on stream and that I've been liking. So here you go, that's my current Master Duel version. I don't want to go too much into detail here, you can just see and use it for yourself. You know how to play the combos now. Just try to do what I did in the one card combo, and if you draw Diabellstar as an extender, you can also make Savage to be safe through some hand traps and have more Omni negates. When it comes to the TCG, I think which version of the deck you're going to want to play is very much up in the air, you know. It's going to require some testing. I think the Fire King version is looking incredibly strong. At the same time, Fire King Island having that effect where it blows up your own board is a little bit of a liability sometimes, you know. It makes you open because you don't have Omni negates. It can open yourself up to cards like Cosmic Cyclone, hit your island and blow up your board and force a majority of your interactions. Having the power of Omni negates in the pure version is pretty powerful. I think it's going to be a little bit up in the air. I'm gonna do a lot of testing. I'm looking very much forward to following the coverage of the UDS tournament and the YCS in Las Vegas to see which versions of this deck are going to be at the top. Until then, I hope you found this helpful. I hope it wasn't too all over the place. I'm still getting used to this, you know, recording off stream with the physical cards in my hand. I do prefer it though. I like it. I like having cards in my hand when I'm doing combos. Let me know if you found this helpful at all. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know what you think of this deck, and if you want more content like this in the future, also make sure to let me know down below that you liked this sort of or this style of video. Yeah, until then, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching if you've watched until this point, and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time. Bye bye, peace.